Hello, welcome to the Eat Well for Life workshop. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that today I'll be reading from my notes because I'm going to be sharing my screen with you to show you a few different things. So I'm not making eye contact with you because I'm looking at my notes and I want to make sure I get the information correct. So welcome. You might want to grab a piece of paper and pen or your journal and pen just to take notes along the way or jot down anything that maybe stands out to you. You will be getting the handouts that I'm showing you when I share my screen. So you don't have to worry about those. And with that, let's get started. So I created this workshop because I've had lots of conversations with people about healthy eating and realized there's a lot of misconceptions, misunderstandings, and even just bad information out there. Things that we learned or heard about even decades ago, heck, even 5 years ago, are no longer true. Science is moving at a fast pace, which allows us to really understand nutrition better and arm us with the knowledge to make better decisions. It's just getting that knowledge to the people, which is my hope in this workshop here today. So I took all of the courses and training I've taken over the last 2 years in particular. I've had a heavy focus on nutrition over the last 2 years. And so it's as up to date as I have, and it's up to date as is out there right now. I did a little extra research to bring a little more information to you because I have people that ask me questions and I wanted to cover those things, and just a little extra digging to put together this presentation that you're going to see today. My goal for this is to help the average person make better decisions in their eating plan. Our diet is what we eat every single day. Unfortunately, the word diet has taken on a meaning that's associated with restriction of some sort, whether it's not eating carbs, reducing our carbs, not eating proteins, whatever that restriction may be. Diet has come to mean something that's negative, perhaps, or something that's meant to be short term. You should never go on a diet. You can tell I don't like that word and the way it's used, unless your healthcare professional tells you to for specific reasons. If you have certain health reasons that you need to be on a restricted diet, for example, you have high blood pressure, you might need to be on a DASH type diet, something like that. Otherwise, what we eat, our diet, if you will, is the stuff that we eat every single day for the rest of our lives. So just to avoid confusion and to take out the connotation of restriction, during this workshop, I'm going to refer to what you eat every day as your eating plan. The Canada Food Guide uses the term eating pattern, so you may hear me use both. This workshop will give you information so that you can better make choices in your eating plan. The important thing here is that you get to choose. You get to choose. If you make better choices on a consistent basis, then you will naturally lose weight if that's your goal. So once armed with knowledge, you have the power to decide what your eating plan looks like each and every day. Now, bear in mind, what I talk to you about today is for the average person with no other health issues related to diet. Also, mental health can play a factor in our eating choices, so I just want you to be mindful of that also. It's for the average person. So don't forget to talk to your healthcare professional if you do have something that you think needs to be taken care of or taken into consideration. So when we use our knowledge to make choices, we empower ourselves. That boosts our confidence and our self-esteem. We're making better informed decisions every day. It also reduces any guilt that we may carry for choosing to eat something that isn't healthy. We get to choose when we get to eat cake, because life is too short to not eat cake sometimes. There's so many things out there that are delectable for us to try. Why not try them sometimes? We just don't want to be eating that way all the time. So here's the thing. Most people who ask me about nutrition want to lose weight. And there's many reasons why someone may want to lose weight. First of all, talking to your healthcare professional to determine if you need to lose weight is an important step in how you approach weight loss. But I'm going to be brutally honest with you. If we are carrying extra weight and we're not getting enough exercise, then as we age, we are going to gain more weight because our metabolism slows, not because of aging, but because we've lost muscle mass by not maintaining it. Losing weight is not impossible, but it takes work. So the amount of work that you are willing to put in is a key factor. That's where you empower yourself. You get to choose how much work you're willing to put in. So I'm here today in this workshop to help you make better informed choices for everyday life-enjoying, healthier eating. So with that intro, let's get started. I want to point out first that we have what's called a set point for our weight. It's based on a continued length of time at a certain weight based on our specific genes and choices. You can't change your genes, but you can change your choices and your decisions. Over a sustained period of time, you can change your set point. So let me explain a little bit. The TV show, The Biggest Loser, I'm sure everybody's heard of it, even if you didn't watch it, you probably know the concept. That show was key in the research behind set point. So very overweight people went on an extreme weight loss program and lost a ton of weight. Researchers followed these people after they lost weight on the show, and all of them gained most of their weight back. Why? Because their bodies fell back to their set point. When they left the show, they didn't maintain the same regime that they were doing while they were in that competition. They went back to their old ways, their old habits. To keep the weight off, you have to maintain a good, healthy regime over a long period of time, i.e., your life, for your body to reset itself and come to its natural set point. And that's why so many people are on this weight gain, weight loss roller coaster, because they go on these diets that restrict something and then they go off the diet. So they don't do long lasting, consistent eating plans. And then their body just goes back to its set point where it's been kind of stuck for a long period of time. So this is a very general workshop. I want you to keep that in mind. I'm not going to get any deeper into the science of weight loss. I just wanted you to understand that eating well is not a quick fix. It's consistency and moderation that are key. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So then, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. What should we be eating every single day? Well, our bodies need a variety of nutrients and minerals. One, we need 3 macronutrients, which means we need them in larger quantities. 2, we need water to function optimally. Water moves minerals and nutrients through our body and allows our body to process them. Water also helps us digest, and it eliminates the stuff that we don't need. Water also keeps our brain healthy, which is beyond the scope of this workshop, but just very important for everyday health that I wanted to point out. And 3, we need micronutrients. Lots of little nutrients needed in various quantities. Optimally, we want to get as much as we can naturally from our food. We were put on this planet, when we were put on this planet, we didn't have the luxury of multivitamins and supplements. So we should be trying to get most of our micronutrients from making good eating choices. Now, again, if you do have any health concerns or any issues where you might need to supplement, talk to your healthcare practitioner about this. So let's take a look first at the 3 macronutrients that we need. We need fats, carbohydrates or carbs, and protein in larger quantities. Everyone needs different amounts and combinations of each based on genetics, body type, muscle mass, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Research is actually being done for personalized nutrition plans, but we're a ways from that yet. But it's coming. But for now, we don't have that. So we need to make decisions based on the research we have out there, based on the information that we can keep with us. We'll be focusing on the generally recommended guidelines in this workshop, which is perfect for the average person. And if you're like me, I don't want to have to think too much about what I'm eating. I don't want to have to track in extreme detail what I'm eating. I don't want to have to count calories. Most of us can't sustain that. We're basically just too lazy to sustain that for a long period of time. So when we understand better choices and what we should be eating, then we can just make those decisions every day on a regular basis without really having to keep track. Again, if you have special health considerations or very specific goals, and I want to point that out too, such as training for a marathon or a fitness competition or something like that, then please see a professional for what your dietary needs should look like. But for the average person, let's move forward. The new and improved Canada Food Guide is the best place to start for the average person. It's no longer sponsored by any interest groups such as the Dairy Farmers of Canada. So it's now based on the science of healthy eating. And this is accessible to everyone online with information provided as well as recipes. And we'll take a look at that in a moment. When I'm coaching, I teach from the CanFit Pro Healthy Eating Pyramid. I prefer it, and we're going to take a look at it. You'll see it's a little bit of a better visual, or at least I think so too, to make better choices. And it breaks down the food groups a little bit more. So we'll take a look at that in a moment also. Before we look at those, I just want to take a moment so you understand what the 3 macronutrients are. Fat. We don't like that word, do we? But fat is important for many vital functions in our body, such as cell formation and integrity, transporting minerals around our body, satiety, hormone functioning, organ protection, and nerve transmission. That's some pretty big stuff. It's also a source of fuel for our body. Thus, fat's important, and we want to make choices to eat good fats. We want to stay away from trans fat, which is basically most processed food, definitely all fast food. Trans fat is linked to cardiovascular disease and maintaining the ability of our arteries to transport our blood around our body efficiently. This is especially important for women as we age because the drop in estrogen as we transition to menopause puts us at a greater risk for cardiovascular disease. This is the #1 cause of death in postmenopausal women. So making good fat choices, the earlier you can, the better. Carbohydrates. We need carbs as our body's primary source of fuel and for proper brain functioning. We want to choose good quality and complex carbs. Why? So we get nutritional value from our choices. Complex carbs take longer to break down, increase our metabolism, and are a more efficient source of fuel. Complex carbs are vegetables, most fruits, and whole grains. There are also simple carbs. So you'll notice I talked about what we need as complex carbs. Simple carbs are typically processed sugars, and our body just breaks these down easily for a spike in energy. So typically simple carbs have little to no nutritional value. Generally speaking, simple carbs would be your sugary drinks, candy, pastries, baking, anything made with white flour and white rice. And then there's protein. Protein keeps our muscles and organs functioning properly. It's important for growth and reparation of our cells. We need good quality protein to keep our muscles and our immune system healthy. Proteins have what are called amino acids, and we're not going to go through those. That's beyond the scope of this workshop. But all you need to know is we need 9 amino acids for optimal health. Meat, poultry, fish, dairy, and eggs contain all 9 of those amino acids. If you eat meat, make sure it's good quality, preferably organic and small farm or wild raised. How you cook it is also important. Baking, grilling, roasting, and poaching are your best methods for cooking protein, meat. This reduces the saturated fat and the potential toxins from cooking with oils. But protein doesn't have to be meat. There's a variety of other sources of protein. You want to make sure you get a good variety because to get all 9 amino acids, you need to combine proteins to get them all. So the only plant-based foods that contain all 9 amino acids are quinoa, freekeh, mushrooms, and soy. Pretty limited. Rice and beans mixed together will give you all 9. Otherwise, you want to just make sure you're getting a lot of variety of different types of proteins so you get all 9 amino acids throughout your day. Other protein sources are nuts, seeds, and their butters, and we're going to go through all that when we start to dive into the Canada Food Guide. So the 3 key things I want you to consider when making decisions on what to eat. Does this have nutritional value or will it nourish me? Am I getting variety? Are my meals colorful? And we're going to talk about that as we get into breaking down what some of these foods are and what our carbohydrates, our proteins, and our fats look like. So we've covered the macronutrients. Let's talk about water for a moment. As already indicated, we need water to keep our bodies functioning properly. Water helps to process the macronutrients we consume, to transport, to digest, and to eliminate. Water also keeps our organs, including our big, beautiful brain, working optimally. Our brain takes a lot of water to work. That's why one of the first signs of dehydration is a headache. Your brain will actually steal water from your body to keep functioning. For a bit of a visual, because I'm a very visual person, imagine your blood flowing through your body. When you're hydrated, your blood is able to move freely and it flows kind of like a river. if we're dehydrated or making poor eating choices, our blood thickens and it has a harder time flowing, making our body, especially our heart, have to work harder. Plain and simple water is the best choice for hydration. I get it, water's boring. Other beverages can also hydrate us, so you might want to throw a little variety in there. You can infuse your water, herbal and fruit teas or tisanes, decaf coffee, in moderation, milk, fruit juice, and caffeinated coffee and tea. We're going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. So bear in mind, though, in making better choices, we want to get rid of sugary drinks. And I want to touch on this point in particular. Sugary drinks, including energy drinks and sports drinks, offer little to no nutritional value. Sports drinks were created for elite and long duration workouts to replace energy. They were created for a very specific purpose. They are not for the average everyday person or child. Fruit juice has a bit of nutritional value, but lacks the fiber that comes with eating real fruit. So for that reason, fruit juice, as sold in stores, is a simple carb. I suggest fruit juice in moderation. We're going to talk about moderation. We're going to talk about serving sizes in a moment, but I just want to let you know that fruit juice, half a cup is 1 serving of fruit juice. So I've put some in a cup here just to give you a little bit of measurement so you can see. So that's half a cup, and that's a standard drinking glass, and it's not the full glass. So that is 1 serving of fruit juice. So just bearing in mind, we have to consider our serving sizes when we consider how much we are consuming. And that's when we're going to talk about moderation in a little bit. We won't discuss, so we've talked about macronutrients, we've talked about water. We won't discuss micronutrients. It's kind of beyond the scope of this workshop. Just know that eating a variety of good quality foods, especially fruits and vegetables, will get your micronutrients for you. Color is a good indicator. Different colored vegetables and fruits offer different nutrients and minerals. So that's why one of those key questions to ask is whether our plates, whether our eating plan, when we look back through the day, had a lot of color in it. If you want, you can use what I call the beige test. So if you look at your meal and a lot of the food is beige, then you're not getting a lot of nutritional value. You're not getting that variety of nutrients and minerals. So you can use that as kind of a gauge to see, how much color you have on your plate or in your meals to know if you're getting a variety of different micronutrients. So now that we've covered the basic elements of an eating plan or eating pattern, let's take a look at the Canada Food Guide. So I'm just going to take you to the Health Canada website to show you around. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So this is from Health Canada. So if you just search for the Canada Food Guide, it's going to take you right to this page. And here's the recommended eating pattern for your day from the Canada Food Guide. Half of it to be fruits and vegetables, preferably vegetables as they have more nutrients, offer more fiber, and are more complex. A quarter protein, a quarter whole grain foods, and make your drink of choice, water. So let's just kind of poke around in here a little bit. So you can see there's lots of places where you can click. They give you recipes. They talk about eating habits, food choices. If we click on each portion of the plate, we can see more information here. So if I click on eat fruits and vegetables, it's going to give you information about fruits and vegetables that are good for you. It tells you to eat a variety like we just talked about and suggests pears, apples, berries, broccoli, peaches, cabbage, and leafy greens. Talks about how to prepare your fruits and vegetables. Talks about where you can get your fruits and vegetables, frozen, canned, dried fruit, how to prepare your vegetables, some snack ideas, and then how to get more vegetables and fruits into your diet. And that's where I want you to focus on making better choices in your day. But first, you may have noticed that they don't give you any recommended servings for each of these. It's just very general. What they want you to do is consider your meal plan throughout the entire day. So for every meal and every snack, you should have the same breakdown as that plate that they show you on the first page, which is half vegetables and fruits, quarter protein, and a quarter grains. All right. Or if you take your eating plan for the entire day, it should look something like that. Half vegetables and fruits, a quarter protein, and a quarter grains. So to put that in perspective, just before we move on, remember our fruits and vegetables are complex carbs, and there are some fats there. Avocado, if you consider it a fruit or a vegetable, is a great source of fat. Protein is your proteins and fats, and grains and legumes are also complex carbohydrates and proteins. So let's just take a look here of how we can get more vegetables and fruit into our day, because that's going to help us to make better choices when we're deciding what we're eating throughout our days. And let's face it, we're lazy. Our brain is lazy. If it's not readily available, we're going to grab something that's quick and easy. So when you start to want to make better choices, if you start to look at your diet and eating plan, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, you want to arm yourself with ways to make it easier to eat better. So some of the suggestions they have here on how to eat more vegetables are to add canned pumpkin or squash puree to any soup to make it rich and creamy. You want to wash, chop, and refrigerate or freeze extra vegetables when preparing meals so you have extras for meals the next day. Use pre-bagged vegetables that can be quickly tossed in a salad, stir fry, or casserole. Serve raw vegetables with your meals. One of my favorite things to do and an easy way to get vegetables into my day is the night before, I'll cut up vegetables and put them in little containers and take them to work with me. And that's one of my snacks during the day. So I have a fruit snack and I have a vegetable snack. And with each of those, I also have a protein. You can try new recipes to try different leafy greens or other vegetables. So making better choices is just basically trying to sneak more vegetables as much as we can into our foods and our meals during the day. You can add more vegetables to pizza. You can add more vegetables to soups or stews. You can try to sneak them in as much as you can. It's easy to grate carrots or grate zucchini and add them to chilies and casseroles and stuff like that. So just trying to be aware of how much we are eating of our complex carbs, our vegetables and fruits in particular, and finding ways to get more of them throughout our day. And like I said, it takes work. But once we're aware, then we can make better decisions. We empower ourselves. How to eat more fruits. For dessert, you can choose to have fruit. You can add fresh fruits to salads, add frozen fruits to baking. You can even add fruits to smoothies or to Greek yogurt, especially if you're buying unsweetened yogurt so you don't get that extra sugar. You can add natural sugar through fruit. And then just wash and cut and refrigerate extra fruit so you have it on hand to throw in, certain things, or even just grab it for a snack or for a meal. So I'm just going to back us up here and we're going to click on the proteins. So they talk about proteins and what they are, and they give a list of protein foods to meet your nutritional needs. So eggs, lean meats and poultry, nuts and seeds, fish and shellfish. You want lower fat dairy products. There's a little bit of controversy on that. And I'm of the opinion that when they take fat out of a dairy product, they usually replace it with a sugar or a salt. So depending on what choices you want to make and your dietary needs, so say you're on a low sodium diet, you want to be careful with lower fat dairy products because they might have more salt in them. You have to read the labels and learn to read labels, which is beyond the scope of this workshop. But on this website, they show you how to read labels. I prefer to have higher fat or the original version of a dairy product. If I'm eating it, I just have less of it. So I'm very aware of how much I'm eating. There's also a flavor reason for that. A lot of the foods that are lower fat and have the fat replaced with something else don't taste as good and might even have a rubbery consistency. I would rather enjoy my food and just eat a little bit less of it. Beans, peas, and lentils, fortified soy beverages, tofu, soybeans, and other soy products, all great sources of protein. They talk about how to choose and prepare your proteins. They go through each of those, give you some ideas for snacks. And at the very bottom here, they talk about more protein that comes from plants. And a plant-based protein diet is becoming more popular. So you can add, tofu to things to make it thicker. You can replace meat with tofu. It takes on the flavor of whatever you're cooking it in. You can add beans, lentils, rice to salads, chilies for lunch. You can make your own trail mix. What a great idea to get your kids involved in making some stuff at home. You can make your own hummus and you can add it to vegetables for a nice dip or something. So there's lots of ways that we can get more protein from things other than meat and dairy. So I'm just going to back us up a little bit and we're going to go to the grains. Now, grains is important here. We do need carbs. Carbs are important for us. We need them for our brain functioning. They are our greatest source of fuel, but we want to make sure we're making good choices when we're eating grain type foods. So remember, our grains are our complex carbs, or we want them to be complex carbs. So what we want to get are whole grains. So you'll see here that they give you some ideas: quinoa, whole grain pasta, whole grain bread, whole oats or oatmeal, and whole grain brown or wild rice. So the key there is whole grain, and they actually have a little blip here about to make sure your choices are actually whole grain, and you're going to need to start reading labels to do that. So whole wheat and multigrain foods may not be whole grain. That may be white flour that have grains or seeds or whatever, they're just adding it to white flour. So you want to read the ingredient list and choose foods that have the words, and you'll see it in quotes there, whole grain, followed by the name of the grain as one of the first ingredients. So for example, whole grain oats, whole grain wheat. Better still, whole grain with the germ means that it hasn't been stripped down. So here's the reasoning. White bread, white flour, white rice, white pasta, it's had the wheat stripped. So what they've done is they've taken it, they've pared it down so it's easy to use, it's cheaper to use, but it leaves no nutritional value left. So that's why you want whole grain. Whole grain leaves the wheat intact, and it leaves the fiber in there, it leaves the nutritional value. So when you strip it down and you make it white, essentially what it becomes is a simple carb. It becomes sugar. Our body processes it very quickly, and if we don't burn those calories, our body stores it as fat. When it's a whole grain, our body doesn't break it down as easily. It takes longer, so we feel fuller longer. It increases our metabolism because it takes longer to break down, and we actually get nutritional value out of it because it hasn't been stripped. So something to be very aware of. I know lots of people that will buy bread that says, 12 grain ancient bread or something like that, but it's still white flour. They've just added grains and seeds and stuff to it. So just something to be very aware of when you're making better choices for food. If you're someone who eats bread, someone who eats pasta, if that's a staple in your eating plan, then you want to transition to better choices so you're actually getting nutritional value. So remember, one of the key questions you're asking yourself, is this nourishing me? Is this providing nutritional value? So that's a key fact in making better decisions when it comes to our complex carbs. It talks about fiber here and why it's important, and then it gives you some examples of whole grain foods that you can include. And there's so much out there that we've maybe not even tried in our diet. So they suggest different ones such as farro and freekeh, amaranth and buckwheat. Those are all things too that you can find in stores like the Bulk Barn, where you can just buy a little bit of it to try. So you're not stuck with a big package of it if you don't care for it. You can try a little bit to see what it's like. And then if you decide, you can buy more of it and incorporate it into your eating plan. So I'm going to back us up a little bit. And then I just want to click on water. So the benefits of drinking water, they provide you here. How to make water your drink of choice. And then they've added ways that you can incorporate more water into your eating plan. So it doesn't have to just be a straight up cold glass of water. That's one of my least favorite things to drink. I don't like the cold. First of all, it hurts my teeth and it's kind of boring, right? So you can have it a little bit warm and you can add things to it. I like to infuse it with maybe some lemon or other citrus or fruits or even herbs, a little bit of mint, cucumber. And what I'll do is I'll chop it all up and put it in a big, beautiful glass pitcher and just leave it in my fridge to drink from all day long. You can also buy water bottles where you're able to infuse flavor in it by adding fruits, vegetables, herbs, and stuff like that. And it doesn't actually get into the water. So they have those separate containers for infusing. It's a great way to get more water, and you're carrying that water bottle around with you all day long. Try to ask for water when you're eating out. So there's lots of ways to get more water, if you will, into our diet. And again, you can also add herbal tea, fruit teas. You just want to be careful that there's no sugar added, or limit or have moderation if there is sugar added. Some tea places are sneaky that way. They'll make it a fruit tea, but then they've added stevia to it. So again, you want to make sure that you're reading the ingredient list. Fruit juice, we already talked about. Half a cup is a serving of fruit juice. So we just want to be careful. I typically stay away from store-bought or ready-made fruit juices. I bought a good quality juicer and I make all of my own juice. And you can now get fresh pressed juice in most of our grocery stores. So that's another option as well. And it tastes so much better. So just some ways to make better choices, to try to get more water, to stay hydrated throughout our days as we're making decisions in our eating plan. I'm currently taking a course for staying fit and fierce, basically for women who are 50 and older. And this person, based on their research, recommends that we drink 1 cup of water at least once an hour. So that might be a good guide to help you make some decisions and remember to drink water. Drinking more water requires us to get up and go get it. So you're also getting more movement in your day. So a nice little trick to help you get up and move around. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. So that's the Canada Food Guide. And like I said, you'll notice that they don't make any recommendations for serving sizes. So this is one of the reasons why I prefer the CanFit Pro food pyramid, healthy eating food pyramid, which was part of my healthy eating and weight loss certification. And as much as I said that I don't want to have to track what I'm eating and constantly writing down and counting calories and doing that much math, I don't want to do that much math when I'm thinking about what I'm eating. I do too much math in my daytime job, my real job. But I do want to have a good sense of, am I getting enough of everything? So the pyramid, which I'm going to pull up, kind of shows you a little bit more and gives you recommendations for servings. So let me just pull that up. So this is the CanFit Pro Healthy Eating Pyramid. And you can see, at least to me anyway, it's a little more visual in terms of what we should be eating and how much of it that we should be eating every day. I tell my clients to take this and print it and put it up on their fridge so that when they're making decisions in their kitchen about what they want to eat, they can take a look at this, and it's a beautiful, colorful reminder of the things that we should be eating. So you will notice that it's a pyramid shape. So at the bottom are the things that we should be eating more of. And as we get up to the top, things we should be eating less of. And we have this beautiful color that our brain associates with very quickly. Green is go, yellow or orange is caution, red is typically no or once in a while as a treat kind of thing. So you'll notice at the base, at the very bottom, water is the first thing. We just talked about how important water is and how important hydration is. And they recommend 3 to 6 liters per day. Everyone's a little bit different with how much water we need to drink. Our typical guideline is 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. That 8 to 10 glasses of water a day does consider the fact that you are getting water from your food. So it assumes you're making good, healthy food choices to get water from your vegetables and your fruits. So if you're not getting your fruits and vegetables, which do provide water to you, then you actually need to up your water intake to more than 8 to 10 cups of water a day. All right, so just bear in mind too, a cup of water. So this is your half cup. So double this amount. So basically a full glass would be 1 cup. So if you're carrying a container, a vessel that has water in it, you want to make sure you know how much it's carrying so that you can pay attention and have a good sense of how much you are getting. Taking a look at your urine is also a good way to gauge if you're getting enough water. So if it's a darker yellow, you're dehydrated, you need to drink more water. If it's clear, you've had too much water, you're actually overhydrated, and yep, that's a thing. You want something that's just on the verge of being clear, a little bit yellow, kind of like lemonade. And looking at our urine is a great gauge to see how hydrated our body is. So, and I know it sounds gross to some people, but there's a reason when we eliminate, there's reasons. They tell us, the stuff we eliminate tells us stuff about our diet and what we should and shouldn't be eating. So our urine is a good indication of how hydrated we are. The next one is our vegetables, preferably raw or lightly cooked. So the more you cook a vegetable, the more you draw the nutrition out of it. So you want to try to keep it closer to its natural state as possible. That's why frozen is better than canned typically, because when we freeze vegetables, when manufacturers freeze vegetables, they typically freeze them very close to when they've been harvested. So they still retain a great deal of nutritional value. You want to get 3 to 6 plus servings a day. You'll see in a lot of research or stuff that I've covered or training courses I've actually taken, it says 7 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. So if you look at fruit, which is actually a little bit higher up your pyramid, it says 2 to 4. So if you add those together, you're going to get your 7 to 10 servings. Vegetables, we want more of. One, they're more complex. Fruit has more sugar in it. Vegetables don't tend to have as much sugar as fruit. Vegetables also offer a variety of color. So that's where we're going to get our micronutrients. That's where we're going to get all those nutrients and minerals from looking at the color that we're eating in our diet. And the more color we can get, then the more micronutrients we're getting, and that's better. Then we want plant protein. All right. Plant protein typically is a better source of protein, only because we typically don't make good meat choices. We go to the grocery store and we just buy whatever in the grocery store. And a lot of that meat isn't processed in a healthy way, doesn't come from a good source, unless you're getting organic meat or you're getting your own meat, whether you're a hunter or a fisher. You want to limit the meat that you're buying at the grocery store. So plant-based protein is a better way to get proteins, or at least getting a good mix of high quality meat and dairy and plant protein. So that's your legumes, that's your nuts and your seeds. We talked about the quinoa. Freak is a good source too, all your different grains, 1 to 2 servings a day. And then we look at our healthy fats, right? So we've covered water, which is big. We've covered vegetables, which is our carbohydrates. We've covered plant protein, which is our protein. And then we've covered healthy fats. So the whole green part of our pyramid, that whole bottom part of our pyramid, is where we get those macronutrients. So healthy fats, it says you want about 6 grams per day. Just know that you want a little bit with each meal. And then animal protein and fruit kind of are in that yellow and orange area. So you just want to be careful that you're not eating too much of that. Animal protein, like I said, is typically a little bit higher on the fat side. We don't know if it's a good source of protein, so just being careful of that. And then fruit, 2 to 4 servings a day, partly because it does contain sugar. But if you're eating the whole fruit, then you're getting the fiber and you're getting the nutritional value from the fiber, and then it's taking a longer time to digest, so we get the metabolism boost, and it doesn't break down as quickly, so we feel fuller for a longer period of time. So then we have grains, and they're a little bit higher up, only because these are the grains that they're considering that are not plant protein grains, and they're not, so that's not your quinoa, your freekeh. And you want to make sure that you're getting good whole wheat grains. We want to try to get our carbohydrates, our complex carbohydrates, from vegetables as much as we can. So the Canada Food Guide did recommend 1/4 comes from grains. Here, we want to just be a little more aware that we want to get more vegetables as much as we can. And then you get to the red zone. So that's moderately processed and highly processed food, which we really want to limit. That's where you're starting to get into your trans fat. That's when you're starting to get into foods that have little to no nutritional value. Typically, these are your beige or your white foods. So I just like this visual a little bit better. And like I said, I like to put it up in my fridge. You're going to get this in your package that you registered when you registered with this course. So you can have this to print at your leisure. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for this. And I just want to take a moment to remind everyone that we want to make sure our eating plan is consistent and covers a long period of time. So it's not a short-term fix, which is why diets that have restrictions don't work. We go back to our set point. We want to make better choices every single day in our eating plan. And that's not to say that we can't eat unhealthy food. So I like to use the 80-20 rule. That's my personal preference. It may work for you. It may not work for you. Everybody is different. You just got to play around. There's a little bit of work involved to figure out, you know, where your kind of sweet spot is. So life is too short. I want to eat fun food. I want to eat good tasting food. I want to eat chocolate lava cake for my birthday. Overall, I make better choices so that I'm healthy overall, but it allows for enjoyment of life. So I just want you to remember that. I mean, for the average everyday person, that is how we eat. So that takes away the guilt. When we arm ourselves with the knowledge to make better choices, then we make better choices throughout our days, which allows us to enjoy those treats every once in a while. So now that we've seen the Canada Food Guide and the Healthy Eating Pyramid, I always recommend that you start keeping a food journal, especially when we're just starting out. So then you can take a look at your day and you can see what you've eaten and you can see how much of your macronutrients that you've eaten. If you are deciding to track servings, then you can see how many servings of each that you've had, and then you can make decisions on where you can make better choices. Maybe you need to drink more water. Most people realize at the end of the day, they haven't eaten enough vegetables. So you can start sneaking those vegetables into different foods. Maybe you add vegetables to an omelet for breakfast in the morning. Maybe you add lettuce and tomato or some microgreens to a sandwich. So just little ways of sneaking those extra things in. When we see the visual of what we've eaten throughout our day, it allows us to make those decisions to do that. Remember, consistency is key. Anything that's a quick fix is not going to help you in the long term. To be healthy for the long haul, we want long-term, consistent, better choices in our eating plan each and every day. Now, let's talk about serving sizes and moderation. Moderation is key in consistency and helping with our choices. We lose track on how much we eat, and we're conditioned to eat more than we actually need. So understanding serving sizes is important to help us make better choices. So I'm going to share my screen one last time, just to bring up a document that you're going to get also in your package here. And this is from Eat Right Ontario, which is a great source too for information on deciding how to make better choices in eating. And they also provide lots of recipes. You can also do an online chat with a nutrition specialist through them. So this document gives us an idea on serving sizes. And I also tell my clients to put this up on their fridge or somewhere in their kitchen where it's a reminder how much a serving size is if we're keeping track of serving sizes. So we're just going to take a look at a little bit of this, and I've got some measuring cups here to kind of show you. But the nice thing about this is it uses our body parts, so we don't need measuring cups in the kitchen to kind of make some decisions on what we're eating and how much of it we're eating. So when it comes to vegetables and fruit, fresh, frozen, or canned vegetables is a half a cup. All right, so that's half of your fist. If you're looking at a measuring cup, that right there is a half a cup. Leafy vegetables, they take up more space. So leafy vegetables is 1 cup or your fist. That's a good gauge. If you do look at a measuring cup, all right, it's about that much. So just bear that in mind. Fruit is 1 whole fruit. Fresh, frozen, or canned fruit, again, half a cup. Dried fruit is less. It's 1/4 of a cup because it's more concentrated with sugar, and you just want to be careful. As a side note, dried fruit tends to stick in our teeth, so you're going to want to make sure that you brush or floss your teeth regularly if you are adding dried fruit to your diet. We already talked about fruit juice, half a cup. Make your own if you can. Grain products. This is where we tend to underestimate how much we eat. So 1 slice of bread, which is basically the size of your hand, is 1 serving. So if you eat a sandwich with a top and a bottom, standard size pieces of bread, that's already your 2 servings of grain for the day. A bagel, 1 small bagel is only half of that bagel. So if you have a bagel for breakfast, there's your 2 servings of grains for the day. Rice, half a cup is 1 serving of rice. Pasta, half a cup is 1 serving of pasta. So now we're thinking about all those meals that we've eaten in restaurants, or we've heaped spaghetti on our plate. And if you look at your plate and break it down into half cups, you have probably eaten 6, 8, 10 servings of grains in 1 meal. So being aware of serving sizes can help with moderation. And that is one of the key factors in making better choices, is knowing how much we're eating. And if you start to pull back and really pay attention to servings, and that's why I personally prefer to keep track of servings, then you can notice that after you've eaten perhaps half a cup of pasta, along with a salad and maybe, some shrimp if you're eating meat for protein, you'll notice that you start to feel full as opposed to eating the whole plate of pasta and then being stuffed. So we can start to be more aware of how our body reacts to food, and that helps us to make better choices too. Let's just scroll down a little bit here to dairy. Milk, 1 cup. Yogurt, 3/4 of a cup. You want to be buying yogurt that doesn't have sugar added to it. So typically a plain yogurt. Greek yogurt does have protein in it, a little more protein. So it's a better choice. And you can add flavor to it by adding your own fruits to it. You can add seeds, grains, ground flax seed, And for a little bit, if you just need a little bit of sweetener, use a natural sweetness. So maybe a little bit of honey or agave nectar, just being aware that we don't want too much sugar added to it. Cheese, this is typically where I overeat. So 2 thumbs together is 1 serving of cheese. Think about that when you're making your pizza. And then our proteins, so meat, poultry, basically the palm of your hand is 1 serving. So if we're going to the keg and we're ordering that giant steak, it's probably 2 or 3 servings, right? So bear that in mind. Fish, same thing, palm of our hand. Our butters, so our nut butters and seed butters, again, is our 2 thumbs. Nuts and seeds, a 1/4 cup is all a serving of nuts and seeds are. So there's my 1/4 cup measuring cup, and that's actually not much. So if you have, a bag of almonds open and you're grabbing it as a snack, we typically probably eat 2 or 3 servings of nuts and seeds, which is getting you probably too much fat. So nuts and seeds have good healthy fat, but we want them in moderation. And then our legumes, 3/4 cup. So again, our fist. So this is a great visual for serving sizes. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else here. Oh yeah, there is. So our oils. So our margarines are butters. My personal opinion is butter is better than margarine because butter is more natural. Margarine is processed. Our oils and our mayonnaise, making your own is even better. 1 tablespoon is 1 serving. That's all it takes. So when you're making your salad dressing with your oil, just be aware that 1 tablespoon is 1 serving. All right. And then it gets into servings of sweet and salty snacks, which we want to eliminate as much as we can. So this is a great resource just to get a better idea as to how much we're eating, how many of those macronutrients we're getting. When we look at our Canada Food Guide, the plate, how much we're getting of each of those things. And again, like I said, the pyramid, if you're keeping track of those servings, this gives you a good guide. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. All right. So hopefully that gave you a really good sense of what you should be eating to allow you to make better choices throughout your day. Now, one thing I do like to cover is alcohol, only because people ask me about it in terms of if they should be drinking any, how it affects them nutritionally, and how it affects their ability to lose weight. So no amount of alcohol is healthy. Alcohol offers no nutritional value, with the exception of red wine, only because it has antioxidants. Now, we don't want to rely on red wine to get our antioxidants. But if you are going to drink alcohol, red wine is your best choice. Now, when making choices in your eating plan, just be aware that alcohol is basically sugar and gets stored as fat in our body. So if you're not burning off those calories, if you're not burning off that sugar, then you're going to gain weight if you're drinking alcohol. Now, just so you're armed with information to make good choices, let's talk about serving sizes for alcohol as per Health Canada. And this is also per the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. So 1 serving of beer is 12 ounces, and that's a 5% alcohol content. If we're drinking spirits, 1.5 ounces of spirits, that's 40% alcohol content. And if we're drinking our wine, 5 ounces of wine, 12% alcohol content is 1 serving. So I am a wine drinker, and I wanted to show that this is 5 ounces of wine. So I've just added a little bit of blackcurrant juice just to make the water a little bit colored so that you could see it. So this is a standard size wine glass, and you can see 5 ounces really doesn't take up much of the glass. You can even just draw a line here so that you always know when you're pouring your glass how much to put in. But how many times do we go to restaurants or we free pour our own glass of wine and we fill it up to like here, right? That's at least 2 servings, maybe more. So just being aware, if we do choose to have alcohol in our eating plan, and I'm not saying whether you should or shouldn't, just be aware of the fact that it offers basically no nutritional value and how much a serving size is. Now, those are also the serving sizes that are used in terms of the criminal code. All right, so just bear that in mind. And keep in mind too, that we might be mixing that alcohol with something. So for example, for spirits, we typically mix it with something. And what we mix it with typically is something sugar laden, whether it's a juice or a pop. So we just want to be aware of those choices when we're adding mix to alcohol. So again, I'm going to reiterate that there is absolutely no nutritional value in alcohol, basically, and no amount of alcohol is healthy. So you are informed and you can make your choices. I still choose to drink my red wine, my 5 ounces a day. So just a few other considerations. There's psychological reasons for our eating choices. As I said, I recommend to start keeping a journal to notice maybe when you make less healthy choices and maybe the emotions you are feeling around those choices or what's happened that day. Emotional eating and comfort eating is a real thing, and we may not even be conscious that we're doing it. So at the end of a bad day, we might grab a bag of chips, open it up, sit on the couch, watch TV, and all of a sudden we reach in and the whole bag is gone and we didn't even realize that we ate the whole bag of chips. If you're aware that you are doing it, if you are aware of your behaviors and your reactions, then you can arm yourself to make choices in regards to it. So then you can release that guilt. So say you do come home from work and it was a really bad day and you choose to eat that whole bag of chips. Well, you chose to do that. And you're like, you know what? I'm just going to wallow in my sorrow today, pick myself up. Tomorrow's a brand new day. That's great. You've made that conscious choice. But we want to be aware of the fact that we're making those choices. That's how we empower ourselves. So we can release the guilt associated with it, because a lot of us carry guilt in terms of what we eat. So maybe instead, maybe if you realize you've had a bad day and you reach for the chips and you realize what you're doing, maybe you can say, no, you know what, I'm going to have something else instead. Maybe I'll make a cup of herbal tea that will calm and relax me. Or you can say, I'm going to open this bag of chips, but I'm only going to put some in this little tiny bowl and that's all I'm going to eat. You empowered yourself to make those choices. So awareness is key. And that's why I typically have people keep a food journal. Especially when you're writing down emotions or why you made certain decisions. And maybe you can see that you're always in a hurry, so you're not making good choices. Then you need to plan better, right? Maybe you're always having meetings scheduled around the lunch hour. So maybe you need to change when you eat your lunch, or maybe you need to break your day down into smaller meals so that you're getting your nutrition throughout the day. So just arm yourself with the knowledge to make better choices. We've also been programmed in our relationship with food. So you might want to journal maybe some beliefs that you've picked up from childhood, from relationships, or from other places along your journey on earth here. For example, many of us, when we were younger, were taught to clean our plates because there's poor, starving children in other parts of the world. Well, me eating more is not going to solve world hunger. So maybe if you put food on a plate, maybe you're not the one that actually put the food on your plate. If you are full, don't force yourself to eat it. Why would you do that? Take the rest and save it for leftovers the next day, or throw it in the garbage. You overeating just because we've been programmed to do it is not to your better health. So just being aware maybe of some of those, pre-programmed ideas and relations that we have with food. And when we food journal that, we can start to be aware of those things. Even if we go to other people's homes and they want us to eat more food, you need to explain to them that, no, this is not, I don't eat this, I don't eat that, or I'm full. Thank you very much. That was delicious. I've had enough. Put on your plate what you want to eat. Be mindful of your serving sizes now that you understand them a little bit better, and just know that you don't have to finish if you are full. We're also taught to eat at certain times during the day. So we grew up typically with a breakfast, lunch, and a dinner. You don't have to eat that way. That doesn't work for everybody. So some people like to break their meals down into smaller and have 6 smaller meals a day. Some people like to stay with those 3 solid meals a day. Some people like to do intermittent fasting, and I would talk to your healthcare professional about that. So maybe you're only eating 2 meals a day. You have to do what works for you, what works in your daily schedule, and what will help you make better decisions consistently in the long term. So I myself, just as an example, I suffer from migraines. And if I don't eat on a fairly regular basis, then I start to get that headache. I start to feel it. So I have breakfast within an hour of waking up. I have a snack, which is usually a piece of fruit and some nuts or seeds or a nut butter in the morning, mid-morning. Then I have my lunch, which is typically 1 o'clock because I usually do a workout at lunch. Then I'll have a little bit of an afternoon snack, so 3, maybe 4 o'clock. And that's usually where I eat a whole bunch of raw vegetables. And then I get another healthy protein. So maybe that's an avocado, maybe that's a boiled egg. Maybe it's a different type of nut, something like that. And then I eat my dinner. And I'm usually teaching classes for you. Those of you who know me, I'm usually teaching classes between 5 and 7 o'clock at night. So my dinner is typically not till 7:30 at night. But you have to do what works for you, what works for your schedule, and what makes you feel the best. So starting to notice, certain times a day, if you're starting to feel hungry, maybe you need a snack. When you're hungry, eat. It's your body telling you that you need food. So just starting to be aware of those things that we're pre-programmed with too can arm you with the information to make better choices throughout your day. And that's personal. So now you've armed yourself with some basic information to start eating well for life and making better choices. Once you start to make small changes, you might want more information. Knowledge is power, choice is empowerment. So thank you so much for joining me. You have the resources that we went through. So I'll give you the link to the Canada Food Guide. I will give you the food pyramid, and I will give you the serving sizes. So you have that information at your fingertips. And take care of yourself, empower yourself.